Welcome back. You are watching The Core, coming to you from the Northeast Children Trust Learning Center in Maiduguri, Nigeria. You can join the conversation on our social media handles, Twitter at Channels TV or at Kadria Ahmed. On YouTube is at Channels Web. You should also use the hashtag #NGTheCore. You can also follow us on Facebook at Channels Forum. Now, Malam Tusa, before the break, Idayat was suggesting that the interventions that are taking place are not exactly designed to fully do the things that they should do, which is to sort of put the Northeast back on the path of sustainability and dealing with the sort of human development indices that are known to be pointers to the fact that the society is doing well and it's on its way to essentially building communities that will thrive.
Exactly. Idayat has hit on a point that is basically to do with societal structuring. Now, in all that we do, that we have done so far, like I said earlier, the issue of this insurgency is dynamic and has many moving parts. But basically, you have to treat all needs based on the human needs initially.
So you can't do a hierarchy of needs kind of thing and decide?
You have a hierarchy of needs which addresses first the hunger, shelter, and then, attendant things like education. Although we are doing all these interventions and we are helping other people deliver such interventions, you would recall this school, for instance, is something that takes care of the outpouring of some part of the conflict. This project is targeted to house 2,000 orphans, which is a fallout. And it gives them education. They would have been out of school without this facility. So it's an ongoing thing, and you have to address all these parts simultaneously.
Dr. Masha, the difficulty again is that we are saying you want to do a hierarchy of needs. People are hungry, you want to give them food. But the point that I think Idayat was trying to make, and which I have heard again and again experts make, is that beyond those immediate interventions, if you do not address some of the underlying causes of poverty, if you're not able to educate children, if you're not able to provide skills so that people have the ability to earn a living, then essentially you're going to have a conflict that will go on in perpetuity, because the conditions that make terrorism attractive to our young men and young women will still continue to exist.
Yes, I agree with you. One of the things that we did, though, and maybe we didn't project this loudly enough, was in putting together all the interventions that we've done. The first thing we did coming in was to try to understand what the situation is to begin with, beginning with what the damages are, what the needs are. The damages and the needs might be different. If I loosely give an example, say, this city has been damaged significantly and people move from here to another city. So you find that in a city where the damage was minimal, yes, that's what we have. But the needs in the city where damages were more might be less because people have migrated somewhere else to seek, better life and all that. So we did an assessment across the 6 Northeast states to understand damages and needs, and in a bid to come up with a collective vision and a strategy. How do we begin to address? And we had 3 pillars that came from that. And we had peace building and social cohesion. And that's everything, including building trust in the government, starting from the local government all the way up. Issues around social justice, transitional justice, human rights issues. We also had cross-cutting issues. We were also able to identify the damages in physical and social infrastructure. And the last one was to look at the economic impact. How do we restore livelihood? How do we stimulate the microeconomy? So these have been identified, and this leads into what the PCNI is doing, because this plan, this research helped in developing a plan that is now being used. And in implementing that plan, what they have been able to do is also, and I'm speaking on his behalf now, is to prioritize and sequence the intervention. So it's a bite at a time, because we can't get to everything at the same time, but we're able to prioritize interventions, sequence them by state. So what you'd find in Borno will be different from what you'd find in Adamawa, different from what you find in Yobe, because the needs are also different. But importantly is the humanitarian need is still there. We need to cater to that. So food, shelter, we need to cater to that, health, while we also look at the longer terms. And some of these interventions have actually begun.
Okay. Now, I'm assuming that these interventions happen where you have relative peace, where the army has gone in and done the job of clearing that. Now, they have, I think, probably a better picture than all of us sitting here of what is going on outside the sort of urban areas where, you know, you can begin to see things taking shape. And so I'd like to ask you, what is the, if you like, countryside like right now? Because we hear that Boko Haram has been degraded and that the conflict is more or less over. However, every once in a while we hear army has been ambushed, 30-something people killed, guerrilla strikes, all of that. What is the real situation regarding security? And how do you, as the army, deal with communities when you get into an area where there has been an attack and there are civilians, but you have maybe suspects as well?
Thank you. Well, just like you raised, maybe you hear that there was an attack or whether the Boko Haram has not been degraded. There's no doubt about that. They have been substantially degraded. But we need to also understand that war against terrorism is one that cannot be cleaned in one sweep. It's not an issue that can just be brought to end abruptly. You know, nations that have had the feel of terrorism will tell you better that years and years they are still on it. But out there, yes, we have been able to stabilize, and also you needed to look at it from where we're coming from. Some years back, you know where the situation is, that people cannot even move out of the metropolitan. Even within the metropolitan, there were challenges. So for us, we have substantially degraded them, and of course, some isolated cases. It's like the kick of the dying man. So attacking soft targets and occasionally trying to loot. For example, you discover that some of those minor attacks and what have you do occur maybe when the NGOs are about to distribute their foods and what have you. So they come in to scavenge for foods and loot foods here and there. So those are some of the isolated cases that happens here and there.
Let me ask you about the information we're getting about a division between Boko Haram. We've heard that there is now Islamic ISWAP, the Islamic State of West Africa, which is sort of now aligned with the faction of Boko Haram. And then we have the Boko Haram led by Shekau. How has that division impacted on the conflict?
Well,
if it has.
Well, analysts and watchers can look at the entire strata of the Boko Haram as having several divisions here and there. Those are not issues to this. All we know is that the Nigerian state is at war with the Boko Haram terrorists. And whatever is their divisions or what have you, our business is to ensure that they are totally, ejected out of the Nigerian territory, and so that we will now restore peace into this country so that people will be able to go about their normal business. Yes, we've had it also that there is a Shakau faction, there is an Albanawi faction, there could be some other factions and what have you, but it is not the issue of the factionalization. All we know is that the bottom line and the line and the base is that there is Boko Haram, and therefore the Boko Haram as a terrorist group are at war with the Nigerian state. It is not the military as some of the perceptions of some people that have. So ours, it is to clear them totally. Whosoever that is against the Nigerian state, it is our business to lead collective efforts in trying to address those issues.
And at some point, I think I will come back to you to talk about how you're doing that and some of the allegations raised around, the activities that is alleged that the Nigerian army carries out. But I'd like to start involving the audience, particularly people who've experienced this trouble, because it's well and good, for us to sit here talking about what people are experiencing. I'd like to hear directly from people who are victims of Boko Haram. I know we have a few people who are internally displaced.